This is RGES Algebra 2, Lesson 14B, and I'll walk through with you a review of Chapter 3. You're going to be doing the check for progresses and the check for improvements on page 91 through 93 and do all the problems. So let's just look at these. The first kind of problem would have something like this. And we're going to have to, that's an X, sorry. And you're going to have to add and subtract, that's the operation. We're adding and subtracting fractions. So what is our fundamental rule when we add and subtract fractions? We need a least common denominator. So the least common denominator here would be 4x. Hopefully you can see that very quickly. And then you would have to make sure that that becomes the denominator for each one of these fractions by multiplying, canceling into the current denominator into the least common denominator, and then multiplying each numerator, then gather like terms. The same would be true for number 2, and watch number 3, because number 3 says m over n divided by P over Q, not a very difficult problem really, times R over S. When we multiply, we're just multiplying straight across. Convert your division into a multiplication by multiplying by the reciprocal, Q over P. Cancel out if you can, which you cannot, but that's the general method. Okay, for number 4, of course you would want to do your factoring. We remember the order we do factoring. First common factor, then we look at difference of squares, then we look at, it could be a difference of cubes. We could have a perfect square trinomial, looking for some special patterns, and if not one of those, just try regular binomial factoring. And then go ahead and canceling. What we have in number 5 is a complex fraction. I think I taught you that the easiest way, there are a couple methods, so I'm always a little confused on which one I'm showing partiality to in any group, but I think we decided to go with the least common denominator, just be consistent with some other things we're doing. So if the least common denominator here is 4, and here, if those are the two denominators, my least common denominator is 8. I'll multiply all of this by 8, and I'm expecting only one fraction over another, and I'm going to lose the complex fraction mode by doing this. Okay? Recall, because 4 goes into 8 2 times, this would become 2 times 3, or 6, minus 8n over 8. The 8's cancel, 3 plus n. And then, of course, all I can do now is factor and see if I can cancel. Let me look at a few more for you. If we have something like number 6, where we have 4y, hang on, there we go. 4y over 3 minus y over 2 equals 10. Because I have an equal sign here, I can get rid of the fractions by multiplying everything on both sides of the equations by the least common denominator, which would be 6 here, 6 here. That would cancel out all fractions in the entire equation, and then we'll go ahead and solve it normally. That would be also true for number 7, and that would be true for number 8. Make sure, however, that you're, I would always look at things like 7, 8, 9. Doesn't apply in 9. Trying to see if it applies here. Doesn't really apply. Okay, but you should try to cancel terms before you look for a least common denominator. So go ahead. They get a little more complicated, but the same concept as number 6 will carry you all the way through number 9. Number 10's a literal equation. Recall, and we want to, let's say we want to solve it for v. we would take this to the other side as a multiplier. U times m plus m equals Vm. And I just want the V by itself, so I would also now divide by the M. And that's what V would equal. Okay, so try to see if you can do the others there. We have these word problems. I'd like you to try them on your own. I'm looking now. It gets a little bit trickier with check for progress number 2. But all the concepts we have covered. Number 5 looks messy, but on the other hand, it looks that if you recall what your cube, don't forget to factor the cube, recall all your factoring, it looks like you'll probably have a lot of canceling, which will be nice. And it'll turn into a fairly simple, straightforward answer. Yes, it does. I'm checking the answer as we go here. All right. We've talked about how to deal with something like number 6 and number 7. Again, all we've got compared to the last one is just a little more difficult problems. So I would say go ahead. I think I've covered the major ideas, the new ideas. Go ahead and try to do them all on your own. Remember, we are preparing for a Chapter 3 test, and we'll review these when you come back after Thanksgiving break. Have a good vacation.